The golden suns of Nova Atlanta hung low over the horizon, casting a burnished glow across the crystalline spires and domes of the city. Airships floated silently above, their hulls marked with the symbols of intergalactic unity. The scent of burning sage and nano-fused sandalwood drifted through the air as the crowd gathered inside the Unity Dome. It was the day of the binding, the sacred joining of Earth's respected elder, Chancellor Elijah Kweku, and Zira of the Qatari. Malik stood at the edge of the atrium, his fists clenched, heart pounding like ancestral drums inside his chest. The room shimmered with ceremonial projections, symbols from old Earth tribal languages, mingling with alien glyphs, forming a living history on the walls. Everyone present wore garments of honor, flowing robes fused with kinetic light threads, beadwork that pulsed with memory tech. Yet Malik wore only black. He wasn't here to celebrate. A soft hum filled the space as Zira entered. Her presence silenced the crowd. Skin iridescent like stardust, eyes that flickered with cosmic flame, she moved like liquid poetry. Malik didn't blink. He saw beneath the shimmer. "Brother looked like he's seen a ghost," whispered Ayana beside him, nudging his elbow. "She's not who she says she is," Malik replied, voice low but steady. Ayana raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" Malik nodded. "I found something in the archive." The high priest, clad in robes adorned with ancestral circuitry, stepped forward. "We welcome this union, a bridge between worlds. Let the binding begin." Elijah Kweku, Malik's father, stood tall, his silver locks woven with copper wire. He looked regal, resolved, and, Malik noticed, distant. Ever since Mother passed, he'd changed, became colder, hungrier for diplomacy, alliances, legacy. Malik couldn't let that blind him now. As the ceremonial circle activated, surrounding Zira and Elijah in a column of ancestral light, Malik stepped forward. "Stop the binding." His voice cut through the sacred hum. Gasps echoed. Elijah turned slowly, his eyes narrowing. "Malik, not now. I have reason to believe Zira is hiding her true identity. She doesn't come in peace. She comes with deception." Zira's expression didn't flinch. She only tilted her head slightly, observing him like a specimen under glass. "Malik," Elijah said, warning in his tone, "this is not the time nor place. You made it the time when you brought her here without full clearance. She manipulated the archive. I found corrupted lineage logs. Her genetic path is masked, artificially constructed," the crowd murmured. Elders looked to one another. Some scoffed, others frowned. Zira finally spoke, her voice velvet laced with steel. "Young Malik, is this your way of mourning? Projecting suspicion onto what you do not understand?" Malik stepped closer to the circle, the light rippling against him like a barrier. "I understand enough. You're not Qatari royalty, you're echoed." Dead silence. Elijah's face drained of color. "That's a serious accusation. The echoed are banned from all interplanetary relations. And yet here she stands," Malik replied. "Disguised, deceitful, dangerous." Zira remained calm. "I demand proof." "You'll get it. But not today, not in front of this crowd." Malik turned to the elders. "Let this ceremony pause. If I'm wrong, I'll submit to exile. But if I'm right..." The priest looked torn, turning to the council of elders, their robes glowing with ancestral tech. After a tense pause, the binding light dimmed. Elijah looked at his son with betrayal in his eyes. "You better know what you're doing, boy," he whispered. Malik swallowed hard, emotion rising in his throat, but he didn't let it show. He couldn't afford to. 3 days before the ceremony, Malik stood alone in the underlevels of the Nova Atlanta archive, deep beneath the Ancestors Plaza. The air was cool, humming with latent energy from 1,000 years of preserved memories. Stacks of memory crystals flickered around him, their surfaces swirling with data pulses, like galaxies trapped in glass. He tapped his temple twice. The archive interface blinked to life over his right eye. "Access private sublayer, Kweku lineage, branch Theta 4. "Authorization?" the archive's voice asked, low and feminine, shaped like his late mother's cadence. Malik E. Kweku, secondary blood access, encoded key, Mama Ayode. Silence. Then the walls rippled with light. Files opened, one by one, visualized in flowing holograms. Timelines, diplomatic ties, genetic pairings. Jira's name blinked into existence, tied to Elijah's record under pre-binding candidate. Malik opened her profile. Her genetic ID floated before him. Origin, Qatari Prime. Line, Royal Fifth Flame. But something pulsed faintly beneath the surface. An echo. He pulled it closer. Cross-referencing with deep ancestral markers revealed a double helix anomaly, a deviation that shouldn't exist in pure-blooded Qatari. Archive, he said, throat dry. Run integrity scan on this entry. A pause. Then, integrity compromised. Profile modified 19 cycles ago by external agent. Source unidentified. His stomach dropped. Who approved this change? Another pause. Override key embedded. Encrypted signature EC Omega level diplomatic shield. Someone had buried the truth under top-tier clearance. Maybe someone close to the Chancellor. Maybe Elijah himself? The ground beneath his convictions began to shift. Malik exited the public layer and navigated to a rarely used node, the Echoed Files, a section rumored to house data on exiled shapeshifter clans. Files locked behind ethical firewalls, files they were told didn't exist anymore. Request access to Echoed Registry, reason, cross-reference genetic anomaly. The archive's voice dropped to register. This data is restricted. Proceeding will generate a flag to the Diplomatic Ethics Board. I don't care. He pressed his palm against the crystal interface. The firewall blazed red, then dimmed. A single file emerged. Subject designation. Jira, formerly Zale, of the Echoed Fold. His breath caught. The hologram unfolded, revealing a secondary ID, suppressed and encoded. Her DNA spiral shimmered, altered through something ancient. Bio-camouflage, evolved deception. He backed away from the console, heart racing. The Echoed weren't just myth. They had infiltrated Nova Atlanta, and his father was about to bond with one. Why her? He whispered. Why now? Behind him, a low clink echoed from the hall. Malik froze. Who's there? No answer. He shut the data stream down instantly, wiping traces. His breath steamed in the suddenly colder air. He turned toward the exit. Arjan paused. Someone had left a single black feather on the floor. It shimmered faintly, not of any Earth species. He knelt and picked it up. It vanished at his touch. The message was clear. They knew he knew. Back on the upper levels, he found Ayana outside the archive, leaning against her gravity bike, earbuds in, bouncing to an old-school beat. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said, lifting one brow. I think I did. Tell me. He looked around, dropped his voice. Zira ain't who she claims. Her ID's hacked, covered with top-tier diplomatic encryption. And worse. He looked her dead in the eye. She's echoed. Ayana straightened. Nah, no way. That whole thing's a bedtime story, like space witches. I saw the data. I'm telling you, it's real. And she's using the binding to secure influence over the Confederation through my father. Ayana exhaled sharply, the playfulness gone from her face. We need proof, solid, public, before she locks this thing down tight. I got 3 days, Malik said. We need to dig deeper. Into the memory core, into echoed history, into who else knew. Ayana nodded. Then let's not waste time. The morning of the preliminary ceremony, the Unity Dome was alive with a soft hum, resonating like the heartbeat of Nova Atlanta itself. Malik lingered near the entrance, watching technicians calibrate the ancestral energy conduits that would feed the binding. The air smelled faintly of ozone and polished obsidian, the scent of progress and history intertwined. He could see his father moving among the dignitaries, shaking hands with planetary delegates. Every gesture measured, every smile perfected. Malik's chest tightened. He knew the weight of expectation on Elijah's shoulders. Legacy wasn't just family name. It was the survival of an entire cultural line. He approached the ceremonial table, where the bonding contract lay suspended in a prism of kinetic light. The contract was more than ink and signatures. It was a living document encoded with ancestral DNA, encrypted neural patterns, and interplanetary law. Malik traced his fingers over the holographic interface. Symbols glowed beneath his touch, each representing an ancestral witness, each pulse a heartbeat connecting past to present. A soft voice interrupted him. "You're early." Tamara, his aunt and a senior diplomat, stepped beside him. Her robes shimmered with the subtle glow of memory weave, beads of light tracing constellations across her arms. "Your father will be ready soon." "I need to know this is real," Malik said, eyes flicking to the glowing contract. "Not just protocol, not just ritual. If she's hiding anything, it'll be here." Tamara's gaze softened. "The contract detects inconsistencies in genetic and spiritual signatures. If her DNA doesn't align with the records, it will reveal it. But it only activates when the ceremony begins." She paused, lowering her voice. "It won't lie, Malik, but you must be calm. The energy field amplifies emotions. Fear, doubt, anger. They all echo in the contract." Malik exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I can't let my father—" "The field doesn't just test the participant," Tamara said gently. "It tests the bond itself. Intent matters. The energy will separate truth from deception." Her eyes locked on his. "You know what you have to do." He nodded. Time to see if Zira's truth, or her lie, would be exposed. The assembly began to gather. Delegates from multiple planets, community elders and technomancers took their places. The hum grew into a harmonic resonance that vibrated through the floor into Malik's bones. Zira stepped forward, her aura shimmering with controlled energy, a perfect performance. She smiled, eyes locked on Elijah, radiating calm authority. But Malik noticed the faint pulse beneath her skin, anomalous, inconsistent with what the contract should detect in a Qatari royal. As the high priest chanted, the contract's energy field enveloped the couple. Symbols flickered, responding to their DNA, their intent, their histories. Malik held his breath. The field pulsed faster. Color shifted from warm gold to a subtle indigo. Something was wrong. Elijah reached out, placing his hand over Zira's. "We begin," he said. His voice resonated with calm power, but Malik could see a slight tremor, a hesitation he had never noticed before. The contract's lights pulsed wildly. Malik felt a hum in his chest as if his very blood were reacting to the anomaly. Tamara's hand touched his shoulder, grounding him. "It will reveal the truth. Trust it." Suddenly, the symbols on the contract began to flare erratically, sparks of light dancing across the prism. Zira's pulse accelerated. Malik stepped closer, sensing the shift. Her smile flickered. The energy didn't lie. Malik's mind raced. This was it. If the field detected her deception, the binding could be stopped, but the consequences would be immediate. Diplomats would react. His father would be torn between duty and revelation. And the crowd, thousands of eyes waiting for the sacred ritual, would witness everything. Zira's gaze flicked toward him for a fleeting second. Cold calculation, recognition, and something else. Fear. Malik swallowed, heart hammering. The contract was alive. The binding was real, and the truth waited in the pulse of light. Malik followed Zira through the quiet corridors of the Unity Dome after the preliminary binding tests. Her steps were silent, precise, like a predator moving among prey unaware of her presence. The light from the kinetic panels reflected off her iridescent skin, casting fragments of her form in shifting patterns on the polished floor. Malik's pulse raced, his mind circling the discoveries from the archive. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded, voice low but firm. "Why come here under a false identity? Why deceive my father?" Zira stopped. Her eyes, deep pools of starlight, regarded him carefully. "You presume too much, boy. Deception is a term for those too small to grasp strategy. I am securing peace for my people. Nothing more, nothing less." "Peace," Malik scoffed. "You're an echoed. You manipulate, infiltrate, hide who you are." Peace isn't born from lies, it's stolen from the truth. His hands shook, not from fear but from anger, from the weight of what he'd uncovered. She tilted her head, a soft smile brushing her lips. You see lies where there is none. You carry the burden of your father's memory and your mother's absence. You mistake fear for insight. Malik's jaw clenched. Insight comes from knowledge. And I have knowledge you can't erase. Your genetic profile is falsified. Your lineage isn't Qatari. You're part of the exiled, echoed fold. I know what you are. Her smile faltered for the briefest instant, and Malik saw it, calculation masked with charm. Interesting, she murmured, stepping closer. So the boy reads data like a prophet, but knowledge without action is irrelevant. Your father believes me. The ceremony is near. If you act now, you defy tradition, insult heritage, risk the respect of the Confederation. Can you bear that? I can bear whatever it takes, Malik said, swallowing hard, because if this binding proceeds, it gives you influence over my father, over the Confederation, over my people. I won't let that happen. Her eyes narrowed, a flicker of frustration piercing her otherwise serene demeanor. Bold, reckless, yet admirable. You are unlike the humans I expected to encounter. Her voice softened, almost imperceptibly. But understand this, the echoed do not fail. If I am exposed, the consequences ripple far beyond your little world. You think you are protecting Nova Atlanta, your father, your lineage, but the cost could be catastrophic. Malik's fists clenched. I'll take that risk. You are naive, she said, her tone sharp now, clipped. And I am patient. I will endure the binding, and your father will see only what he wishes. Until the right moment, your words are empty. Malik's stomach churned. He realized the depth of her manipulation, the subtlety of her patience. Zira had studied him, understood his weaknesses, predicted his reactions. She had walked this path with calculated steps, masking every true intention, and yet he couldn't let fear control him. You're underestimating me, he said quietly. I've spent my life studying our history, our traditions, and the archive doesn't lie. You've hidden, yes, but I've uncovered, and I'll stop this before it's too late. Zira laughed softly, a sound that echoed strangely in the corridor. Perhaps, or perhaps you merely delay the inevitable. You are brave, Malik Kweku, but bravery alone does not save kingdoms, nor families, nor planets. Remember that. Before Malik could respond, the distant hum of the dome's energy field shifted. The preliminary binding tests were complete. Lights pulsed faintly through the corridors, signaling that the final sequence was approaching. Zira's gaze flicked toward the central chamber, and she straightened. This is only the beginning, she said, almost gently. Soon everyone will see the role you are destined to play. Malik felt the weight of her words, their implication pressing down on him. Every step he took from that corridor forward would be a calculated move, each choice a test of courage, intellect, and heart. Zira wasn't just a threat. She was a challenge of every measure he possessed. He drew a deep breath. The ceremony would happen. But he would be ready. Malik's feet echoed against the marble steps leading to the council chamber. The elders' robes shimmered like woven starlight, each one representing centuries of lineage and wisdom. Their eyes, sharp and discerning, followed his every move. He took a deep breath, trying to steady the tension coiling in his chest. Malik Kweku, intoned Elder Nia, her voice resonant and calm, yet laced with authority. You seek to bring forth accusations against the Qatari envoy, Zira. On what basis? Malik stepped forward, holding the data crystal from the archive. Elder Nia Council, I present evidence from the ancestral archives. Zira's genetic and spiritual profile is manipulated. She is not who she claims to be. Her true identity belongs to the exiled echoed fold. The room fell into a tense silence. Elders exchanged glances, some leaning forward, others shaking their heads. The youngest member, Elder Raji, whispered to his neighbor, "The boy speaks boldly, yet he risks dishonoring his father." Malik's hands tightened around the crystal. "I understand the risks. I honor my father and this council. But tradition, duty, and peace must be preserved. Allowing deception to enter our sacred ceremonies undermines every principle we uphold. Elder Nia regarded him silently, eyes narrowing. The archives you reference are hidden and highly restricted. Do you comprehend the gravity of claiming authority over such matters? The weight of interplanetary diplomacy rests in our hands. I do, and I accept that responsibility, Malik said. I've cross-referenced lineage, ceremonial energy readings, and historical data. The anomalies point to intentional concealment. If the binding proceeds without verification, consequences could ripple across Nova Atlanta and beyond. A murmur rose among the council. Some elders shifted uneasily. Your passion is commendable, young one, said Elder Amara, but youth often carries the burden of impulsiveness. How can we be certain your claims are not colored by fear or resentment toward your father's choices? Malik met her gaze steadily. I carry no resentment. I carry the truth. I refuse to see our traditions manipulated. I've learned from our ancestors' wisdom, from the archive and from my own studies. I would not risk this if I were not certain. Elder Nia's hands rose, signaling silence. Your certainty is noted, but you must understand that disrupting a binding ceremony is unprecedented. Such actions could destabilize alliances, incite distrust, and challenge our ancestral code. I understand, Malik said. And yet, is preserving appearances more sacred than preserving truth? Our people's safety and integrity must come before optics. If deception is allowed, all else fails. A pause hung in the chamber. The elder's eyes swept across the room, weighing every word. The hum of the energy conduits beneath the chamber thrummed through the floor, like the heartbeat of history itself. Finally, Elder Nia spoke again. You speak with courage, she said, her voice softening. But courage alone does not ensure justice. You will require allies, guidance, and clarity to act wisely. Tamara, she gestured, assist him in navigating the complexities of this revelation. The boy must not walk this path alone. Tamara stepped forward, a faint smile touching her lips. I will guide him as our ancestors would. He carries both burden and potential. We will discern the truth together. Malik exhaled, tension easing slightly. Support was a fragile thing, yet it mattered. His path forward was perilous, yet he no longer walked it entirely alone. Elder Nia fixed her gaze on him, piercing yet measured. Remember, Malik Kweku, our traditions are not merely rules. They are living vessels of our culture. Any action you take echoes far beyond this chamber. Choose carefully. Let the voices of the past guide your next steps. Malik bowed his head, absorbing every word. I will honor our ancestors' counsel. I will not let deceit taint their legacy. Outside, the corridor stretched empty and silent. Malik felt the weight of the coming days pressing upon him. Every choice, every move, every word would matter, and the closer the ceremony approached, the more dangerous the truth became. But for the first time, he sensed a thread of hope. The elders and Tamara stood with him. He turned toward the chamber's exit, resolve hardening. The challenge ahead was immense. Yet Malik knew with unwavering certainty he could not falter. For his father, for his people, and for the legacy of Nova Atlanta, the truth had to prevail. Malik and Ayana moved silently through the narrow corridors of the hidden laboratory beneath Nova Atlanta's tech district. The hum of long-dormant servers filled the air like distant echoes, carrying the weight of centuries of experimentation. Ayana's hands danced over the interface, bypassing firewalls with fluid precision. Her eyes glowed faintly from the augmented reality lenses as she navigated the archive's forbidden sublayers. Malik, this is beyond anything in the public logs, Ayana said, her voice hushed. These labs, they weren't just abandoned. Someone tried to erase them from history. I don't care about history, Malik said, his jaw tight. I care about what Zira is hiding. If she's echoed, we need proof. We need to stop the binding. They reached a containment pod, half buried under dust and cracked energy conduits. Malik's hand hovered over the panel. This is it. This is where they kept genetic anomalies, illegal experiments, the ones who survived the purge. Ayana's fingers flew over the keyboard. The encryption is heavy, Whoever modified Zira's identity made sure nobody could trace her past. "Do it," Malik commanded. "I need to see her true lineage." A series of holographic spirals lit up the room. Malik's eyes widened as he traced the double helix patterns. The genetic code shimmered like liquid light. It was Zira, but distorted, masked with artificial markers, overwritten sequences, a signature pointing unmistakably to the echoed fold. He swallowed hard. "She's not Qatari," he whispered. "She's part echoed. Everything she said, everything she pretended, it's all a fabrication." Ayana exhaled sharply. "This isn't just deception. This is infiltration at the highest level. If she succeeds with the binding, her influence could extend to every planetary council linked to your father." Malik's fists clenched. "We can't let that happen. I need full access to her files. Names, origins, affiliations." Ayana's fingers danced faster, bypassing security protocols layered over decades of code. A warning flashed. "Unauthorized access. Trace initiated." "They know we're here," Ayana muttered. "Somebody's monitoring. Probably Zira herself." Malik's heart raced, but he didn't flinch. "Then we finish before they trace us." The files loaded. Movement logs, lineage charts, covert mission reports. Zira's real name, Zale, appeared in bold. Born in exile, trained in manipulation, genetically engineered for infiltration. Her profile contained psychological conditioning sequences, strategic operation patterns, and infiltration histories spanning several planetary systems. Malik's stomach churned. The scope of her mission was larger than he had feared. "She's dangerous," Malik said, voice low, almost shaking. "This isn't just about my father or the binding. This is about the Confederation itself." Ayana nodded, eyes fierce. "And now we've got the proof, but we're not safe. If she discovers we've accessed this, she could strike at us directly." Malik turned to her, determination in his gaze. "Then we need a plan. Evidence, exposure. And we need it before the ceremony. My father can't be blind to this." A sudden alarm echoed through the lab, red lights bathing the walls. Malik's pulse jumped. "They found us." Ayana grabbed a data shard, wrapping it in a protective sheath. "We've got enough. Come on." They sprinted through the labyrinth of corridors, dodging security drones that had been reactivated by their intrusion. Malik's mind raced, calculating the next moves. The binding, the contract, the elders, his father. Every second counted. Zira's mask was slipping, but if they didn't act fast, it wouldn't matter. They reached the elevator shaft, hissing into life as they ascended toward the upper city. Malik clutched the data shard like a lifeline. This was the evidence they needed. The true identity of Zira, Zale echoed operative, could no longer be hidden. The revelation was about to change everything. Above them, the sun glinted off the crystalline towers of Nova Atlanta, a reminder that the city itself depended on truth, honor, and vigilance. Malik's resolve hardened. He would face whatever came next, expose deception, and protect his father, his people, and the legacy of their ancestors. Nothing else mattered. Malik and Ayana hurtled through the orbital transport tunnels, the city beneath a blur of neon lights and mirrored spires. The data shard hummed in Malik's hand, carrying secrets that could unravel alliances, betrayals, and hidden agendas. Every pulse of the shard reminded him of the stakes. The binding ceremony was hours away, and the truth had to be revealed before it was too late. "We can't go to the public archive," Malik said, voice tight. "If Zira discovers us there, she could lock down the entire network. We need to get to the old colony." Ayana glanced at him, determination flashing in her eyes. "The orbital ruins? Nobody goes there anymore. Radiation, residual defense system. It's practically a death trap." Malik didn't flinch. "I've seen the schematics. It's our only shot. If we can cross-reference Zira's files with the colony archives, we can prove everything." They navigated the labyrinthine tunnels to the launch bay, slipping past security drones with synchronized precision. Ayana's hands moved over the interface on her wrist console, creating temporary cloaks of invisibility. Malik felt the hum of power through the magnetic field boots under his feet. synchronizing with his pulse. As they entered the vacuum shuttle, the countdown sequence began. Malik gripped the console. Destination, Lyria Station, Old Colony Data Vault. The shuttle lifted off with barely a whisper, slipping through the orbital lanes as the city's lights fell behind them. The vast emptiness of space stretched before them, punctuated by distant stars and the ghostly silhouette of abandoned satellites. Malik's mind raced, tracing the connections Zira had forged over decades, every alliance, every infiltration, every manipulation, a web he now had to untangle before it consumed everything. Hours passed. The shuttle docked at Lyria Station, an ancient orbital colony ravaged by neglect and time. Broken energy conduits arched like skeletal remains across the hull. Inside, the air smelled faintly metallic, mingled with the scent of ozone and dust. Malik's boots echoed against the hollow floors as Ayana activated the archive node, connecting the data shard to the old colony's network. "Malik, we're not alone," Ayana whispered. He froze. A low hum vibrated through the station, synthetic and deliberate. From the shadows, cloaked drones materialized, their sensors scanning for life forms. Malik felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. They had been followed. He ducked behind a rusted support beam. "We need to move fast," he said. "Don't engage unless we have to." Ayana activated an EMP pulse, short-circuiting one drone. Sparks flew as it collapsed silently to the ground. Malik grabbed the data shard, fingers flying over the interface. "I'm pulling Zira's historical operations now. Everything we need to prove her infiltration. Names, missions, identities, full exposure." A second wave of drones advanced, moving with inhuman precision. Malik and Ayana sprinted through the narrow hallways, leaping over collapsed conduits and fractured catwalks. The station groaned under their feet, as if the colony itself resisted intrusion. "Almost there," Malik panted. "Just need to finish the extraction." The interface completed the transfer. A holographic projection of Zira's full dossier shimmered in the air. Covert missions, lineage falsifications, psychological manipulations, and evidence of alliances with the exiled echoed fold. Malik felt a surge of both triumph and fear. This was enough to stop the binding, but getting back alive would be the true challenge. "Shuttle's back online," Ayana said. "We move now." They raced to the exit, drones closing in from all directions. Malik activated the thrusters, hurling themselves into the shuttle bay. Ayana slammed the hatch, and the vessel rocketed back toward Nova Atlanta, weaving through orbital debris with expert precision. As the city's glowing spires came into view, Malik gripped the data shard tightly. They had the proof. Zira's deception could no longer hide in the shadows. But the binding was imminent, and every second counted. Malik's resolve solidified. The final confrontation was approaching, and there would be no turning back. He exhaled, eyes fixed on the horizon. The truth was within reach, and the consequences of exposure would shake the very foundations of Nova Atlanta. Malik stepped into the private chambers of his father, Elijah Kweku, heart hammering like ancestral drums. The room smelled of polished wood, aged leather, and faint traces of Zira's perfume lingering in the air, a scent he now associated with deception. Elijah stood by the window, gazing at Nova Atlanta's spires, seemingly lost in thought. His posture was regal, commanding, yet Malik could see the tension coiled beneath the surface. "Father," Malik began, voice steady despite the storm inside, "we need to talk." Elijah turned, eyes narrowing slightly. "Malik, what brings you here at this hour? I have no time for doubts or unrest before the ceremony." "This isn't doubt," Malik said. "This is fact. Zira isn't who she claims. She's an echoed operative. Her lineage, her identity, everything you think you know about her is fabricated." Elijah's expression shifted from irritation to disbelief. "You speak recklessly, boy. The Qatari envoy has passed every diplomatic clearance, every genetic verification. She has my trust and by extension the trust of the Confederation." "I know what you want to believe," Malik said, taking a step closer. "But belief doesn't change truth. I have the evidence, her real identity, her operations. The manipulation she's carried out to infiltrate our highest circles. I saw the files with my own eyes. Elijah's jaw tightened. You accuse her without proof. You defy the ceremony, the traditions, and the wisdom of our ancestors based on whispers and shadows. Malik, you have no idea the repercussions of what you claim. I do, Malik said, his voice rising, and I accept them. But if this binding happens, you give her influence over you, over the Confederation, over our people. I cannot let that happen. Not when I know what she is. Elijah's eyes softened for the briefest moment, betraying the ache of loss and longing that Malik recognized from his mother's passing. You carry your mother's memory too heavily. I wanted a union that could heal, that could bring hope. Jira promised that. Your accusations threaten that hope. Hope built on lies is no hope at all, Malik replied. You see only what you want to see. I ask you to open your eyes. Please, Father, before it's too late. Elijah's gaze fell, pained and conflicted. I am torn, Malik. I want to trust you, to honor your instincts. But my heart seeks reassurance, and my duty demands faith. The binding is more than a ceremony, it is a political bridge. I cannot simply halt it on suspicion alone. You can, though, Malik said softly, if you trust what I've discovered. Trust me. Trust the ancestors who guided us, and the truth will prevail. Elijah looked away, staring at the city below, sunlight glinting off the spires like scattered gold. The silence stretched between them, heavy with expectation and memory. Malik could see the inner battle, the struggle between duty, desire, and paternal instinct. He placed a hand on his father's shoulder, feeling the strength beneath the formal bearing. Father, I am not here to defy you. I am here to protect you, our family, and our people. You taught me to honor the past, but also to safeguard the future. This is that moment. Elijah's lips pressed together, his breathing steady but heavy. You carry conviction, Malik, and yet conviction alone cannot illuminate every shadow. If what you say is true, and if I act, the consequences could be catastrophic. Malik's voice was unwavering. Better to act with the truth than to preserve illusion. The consequences of inaction will be far worse. Elijah finally turned, eyes meeting Malik's. Pain, pride, and apprehension intermingled in his gaze. Then we walk this path together, Malik. Show me the proof, guide me, and I will listen. I will act, but carefully and with eyes wide open. Malik felt a surge of relief, tempered by the urgency pressing down on them both. The binding loomed. Jira's deception threatened everything, but for the first time his father's faith was no longer blind, it was informed, and that might just be the edge they needed to confront what was coming. Outside, the sun glinted off the spires of Nova Atlanta, casting long shadows over the city. Inside, Malik and his father prepared for a reckoning that could change the fate of generations. Malik sat in the corner of the ancestral chamber, his hands trembling slightly, as he aligned the data shard with the chamber's central console. The air hummed with latent energy, a resonance that seemed to reach into his very bones. Ayana stood beside him, her fingers flying over her wrist interface, bypassing layers of security that had remained untouched for decades. The ancestral firewall protecting the core archives was no ordinary encryption. It was a fusion of spiritual lineage verification and quantum code, designed to respond only to true descendants with pure intent. You know this isn't just a system, Ayana said quietly. It's alive, it reads fear, doubt, hesitation. One wrong move, and it could lock us out permanently. Or worse. Malik swallowed. I don't care. We need the proof. Jira's deception is bigger than my father, bigger than Nova Atlanta. If we fail, the consequences could ripple across the Confederation. He placed his palm on the central glyph, feeling energy pulse through him, syncing with his heartbeat. Symbols of ancestors shimmered in the air, faces, hands, sigils, all watching, waiting. Malik closed his eyes, summoning memories of his mother, of stories she had told about their lineage, the principles they upheld, the sacrifices made to preserve truth. He focused, letting his intent align with theirs. "Initiating override," he murmured. The chamber responded. A cascade of light spiraled up from the console, wrapping around the walls in intricate patterns. The ancestral firewall stirred, testing, probing. Malik felt a pressure in his mind, questions unspoken, judgments silently delivered. Doubt gnawed at him. Could he maintain the clarity required? Could he withstand the judgment of generations he had never met? Ayana watched, tense. "Stay focused. Don't let it sense hesitation. Your fear will be its lock." Malik's teeth clenched. "I'm ready." "I have to be." A wave of energy washed over him. Visions flickered before his eyes. Zira's infiltration missions, hidden manipulations, altered identities. The Echoed's presence in the Confederation subtly influencing key decisions. Every truth he had uncovered in the archive and at Lyria Station now projected into his consciousness in raw, unfiltered form. It was overwhelming, almost suffocating. He reached out, pressing deeper into the glyphs. "Ancestors, guide me, let truth be revealed." The glyphs pulsed brighter, scanning his DNA, his spiritual signature, the intent behind every action he had taken to protect the lineage. Malik could feel the energy testing him, probing the honesty in his soul. Doubt flickered again, but he anchored himself to the memory of his mother's voice, to the promise he had made to preserve honor. A final surge of light erupted from the console, cascading over the chamber like liquid starlight. The firewall accepted him. Malik gasped, the pressure lifting, leaving him light-headed but triumphant. The interface unlocked fully, the core archives now accessible. Files long sealed away, records of every echoed infiltration, every falsified lineage, every political manipulation, lay open before him. Ayana exhaled, relief evident in her posture. "You did it. The ancestral firewall recognized you. You're clear. This is the proof we need." Malik's hands shook as he navigated the archives, pulling every relevant file. Zira's manipulations, her true identity as Zale, her orders, her genetic modifications, all were there, undeniable. The magnitude of what they had uncovered hit him. The binding ceremony was imminent, and now they had the power to expose the truth. Malik turned to Ayana, determination blazing in his eyes. "We can't waste time. The ceremony starts soon, and we have to make sure my father sees this before Zira can act." Ayana nodded. "Then let's move. The truth is ours, but getting it to him without her knowing will be the real test." Malik clenched the data shard, feeling its weight as both burden and weapon. The ancestral firewall had accepted him. The path forward was clear. The final confrontation with deception, with legacy and with the binding itself was about to begin, and Malik would not falter. Malik's hands trembled slightly as he opened the projection from the data shard, revealing the full dossier of Zira, no, Zale. Every mission, every falsified identity, every manipulation laid bare in intricate holographic detail. Names, faces, planetary coordinates, encrypted orders, they all traced back to the exiled echoed fold. Malik's pulse raced. This was the proof. Absolute, irrefutable. "We've got her," Ayana whispered, her voice taut with disbelief. "Everything. This proves she's been lying, infiltrating, manipulating, all of it." Malik's jaw tightened. "We can't waste time. The binding is about to begin. If we don't act, my father and the Confederation could be under her influence before anyone realizes what she truly is." Ayana's eyes flicked toward the window. "And she'll know we accessed this. The moment she finds out, she could move faster than we can." Malik nodded grimly. "Then we need to be faster. We take this to my father, but discreetly. Before she can spin any lies or manipulate the ceremony." They exited the safe house, the city's orbital glow reflecting in Malik's eyes. As they approached the Unity Dome, a familiar shimmer in the shadows caught Malik's attention. Zira emerged, her aura flickering with calculated control. She smiled, flawless, almost comforting, but Malik's eyes caught the subtle anomalies, the slight distortion in her energy signature, the uneven pulse beneath her skin. "Ah, Malik," she said softly, voice smooth as liquid chrome. I wondered when you'd uncover the truth. You're Zale, Malik said, stepping forward. The echoed, every part of you fabricated. Every word, every gesture, it's a lie. Jira's smile didn't falter. Impressive, she murmured. But truth is a matter of perspective, isn't it? What you see, what you believe, is filtered through your lineage, your culture, your memories. I am what I must be to fulfill my purpose, and purpose is not constrained by morality. You call manipulation purpose, Malik shot back. You've deceived my father, my people. You've hidden your true intentions behind a mask and you think it's acceptable. It's not, and I won't let you succeed. Jira tilted her head, studying him. So passionate, so determined. I almost admire your bravery. Almost, but you don't understand the scales at play. One misstep, and you jeopardize everything you claim to protect. I understand more than you think, Malik said, eyes narrowing. I've seen the records, the missions, the manipulations. I have the proof, and my father will see it. Her expression flickered, the first crack in her composed veneer. Proof, she said softly, almost a whisper, is only meaningful if believed. Convince your father, Malik. Convince the elders, convince yourself. The clock is ticking. Malik's fists clenched. He could feel the pressure of every eye that would be on the ceremony, every expectation, every potential disaster. Jira's manipulation had been subtle, brilliant, and calculated, but now exposed, she was vulnerable. We move, Malik said, gripping the data shard tightly. We take this directly to him. The ceremony can't proceed until the truth is known. He will not be blind to this. Jira's gaze followed him, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. Calculation, perhaps, or irritation. Very well, she said. But remember, Malik Kweku, exposure is only the beginning. Every action has consequences far beyond your understanding. Are you prepared for that? Malik didn't answer. He turned to Ayana, determination burning in his eyes. The time for caution was over. The binding, the deception, and the legacy of his people demanded action, and he would confront it head-on. The Unity Dome loomed ahead, its crystalline spires catching the first light of the approaching ceremony. Malik felt the weight of the data shard, the magnitude of the truth, and the inevitability of the confrontation. The moment had arrived. The mask would fall, and nothing could stop it. The Unity Dome vibrated with anticipation. Thousands of delegates, elders, and citizens gathered, their eyes fixed on the crystalline stage where the binding was to occur. Light cascaded over the chamber, reflecting in golden prisms that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Malik gripped the data shard in his hand, feeling the weight of revelation pressing against his chest. Ayana's presence beside him was a steady anchor, her fingers poised over the interface that could broadcast the truth instantly. The ceremony began. The ancestral glyphs flared, scanning DNA, intent, and spirit. Elijah stood at the center, calm and resolute, his eyes bright with anticipation. Zira's aura shimmered, a calculated display of grace and control, her iridescent skin catching the light like liquid starlight. She smiled at Elijah, a gesture meant to inspire trust, admiration, and devotion. Malik's jaw tightened. The time had come. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the hum. "Stop the binding!" Gasps rippled across the crowd. Delegates froze, the elders' expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief. Jira's eyes flicked toward him, surprise masked quickly by a serene smile. Elijah's gaze fell on his son, confusion and concern battling against the expectation of protocol. "Malik," Elijah said, voice steady but questioning. "I'm sorry, Father," Malik said, holding up the data shard, "but this must be done. Jira, Zale, is not who she claims. She is an echoed operative. Everything about her identity, her lineage, her intentions, fabricated. I have proof." The holographic data projected instantly, casting images and records across the dome. Genetic sequences, mission logs, falsified lineage reports, covert manipulations, all visible to every eye. The audience murmured, disbelief colliding with awe as the truth became undeniable. Jira's smile faltered. Her gaze flicked to the elders, then back to Malik. "You dare expose this," she said, voice smooth but edged with tension. "Do you understand the consequences?" "I understand them perfectly," Malik replied, "and I accept them, but the truth must prevail before deception undermines our people and the Confederation." The ancestral glyphs pulsed in response, scanning the data and amplifying its truth. Jira's aura quivered. Her carefully constructed energy shield began to waver under the combined force of the chamber's truth field and Malik's conviction. Elijah stepped forward, his eyes absorbing the evidence. Shock gave way to recognition, and recognition to resolve. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice low, carrying both sorrow and determination. Malik nodded. "Yes, Father. And if we do not act, the consequences could extend far beyond this chamber." The elders exchanged glances, then slowly nodded, their decision clear. The binding could not proceed under these revelations. The chamber's light dimmed slightly, acknowledging the intervention. Jira's calm demeanor cracked, her voice rising. "You cannot. This is sacred." "I was chosen. My presence sanctioned." "The sanction was based on deceit," Malik said. "Truth cannot be ignored, and deception cannot stand." Jira's energy flared, attempting to override the glyphs, but the chamber resisted. The truth, amplified by the ancestral firewall, was unyielding. She faltered, her mask slipping for the first time. Delegates murmured, recognizing the danger of her deception. Malik advanced toward his father, who extended his hand. Malik placed the data shard in Elijah's palm, the weight of both evidence and responsibility now shared. The chamber vibrated with tension, and the ceremony meant to unite had instead become the stage for revelation. The binding halted. The chamber fell silent, save for the soft hum of the ancestral glyphs. Malik exhaled, his chest tight with exhaustion and relief. The truth was revealed. The deception had been exposed. And the fate of Nova Atlanta, the Confederation, and his father's legacy had shifted in that single irrevocable moment. The chamber fell into tense silence as the elders gathered at the center of the Unity Dome. Malik stood beside his father, data shard in hand, the weight of revelation heavy in the air. Jira, Zale, stood at the opposite end, her composure cracked but not broken. The ancestral glyphs hummed, resonating with a deeper frequency now, calling forth the judgment of those who had come before. Elder Nia's voice carried across the dome, rich with authority and tradition. The evidence presented cannot be ignored. Yet tradition demands that the accused be judged by the standards of our ancestors. The binding cannot proceed without proper scrutiny. Let the judgment of the ancestors commence. Malik's heart pounded. This was the moment the truth would either stand or be dismissed. The elders began chanting, a low, resonant hum that activated the ancestral glyphs. Light spiraled upward, cascading over the assembly, weaving through every participant, every observer. The chamber vibrated with the weight of history, every pulse a testament to the vigilance of the past. Jira raised her hands, attempting to project an aura of control, but the glyphs reacted violently, flickering in resistance. Malik noticed her eyes, those shimmering pools of false calm darting for weaknesses. He could see the fear hidden beneath her calculated mask. The ancestral energy did not respond to lies, it sought truth, intent, and integrity. Elder Amara stepped forward, voice unwavering. "Your identity, your lineage, your purpose, Jira. Reveal the truth. Do not attempt to deceive the ancestors, for they will see beyond your mask." Jira's lips parted slightly, a hesitation visible for the first time. The glyphs flared, scanning her energy, her DNA, her intentions. The holographic archive connected to the ancestral field, replaying every mission, every deception, every falsified record. Malik's pulse quickened. The truth he had risked everything to uncover was now fully exposed, amplified by ancestral will. Malik glanced at his father. Elijah's eyes were steady, absorbing every revelation. His hand rested lightly on Malik's shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of trust and shared responsibility. Malik felt a surge of resolve. The elders, the ancestral glyphs, the collective history, all aligned with the truth. The ancestral light pulsed brighter, embedding Zale's falsified identity into the collective judgment. Zira's posture faltered, and for the first time her aura shifted, revealing the energy pattern of the echoed fold hidden beneath her Qatari facade. The chamber murmured in recognition of the exposure as delegates and elders alike realized the extent of the deception. Elder Nia's voice rose, resonant and commanding. The ancestors have spoken. The binding cannot proceed. Deception has been revealed. The accused's intent and actions betray the trust of our people, the sanctity of the Confederation, and the honor of our lineages. The chamber renders judgment. Zira Zale of the Echoed Fold is hereby disqualified from any binding or ceremonial union with our lineage. A stunned silence followed, broken only by Zira's whispered exhale. The energy field around her flickered, unstable, her carefully constructed projection unraveling. Malik felt a rush of relief, tempered by awareness of the battles yet to come. Elijah stepped forward, his voice steady, rich with emotion. We honor the ancestors and the truth they demand. Malik, you have acted with courage and wisdom. Together, we have preserved the integrity of our people, our lineage, and our legacy. Malik bowed his head, respect and gratitude flowing through him. The elders nodded, the glyphs dimmed slightly, and the chamber's resonance returned to a steady, calm rhythm. The judgment of the ancestors was complete. Truth had prevailed, and Zira's deception lay bare for all to see. Outside the chamber, the delegates whispered. The city itself seemed to breathe in relief. Malik exhaled, the weight of tension slowly easing. The binding had been halted, honor preserved, and the path forward now clearer, but challenges still awaited beyond the doors of the Unity Dome. The Unity Dome was quieter now, the hum of energy systems barely perceptible as the aftermath of judgment settled over the chamber. Malik stood beside his father, both facing the assembly, the weight of the moment heavy between them. The decision was made, and the truth was undeniable, but the battle was far from over. Zira, Zale, was no longer part of the binding, but her influence remained, and the consequences of her actions still lingered. The delegates were still murmuring, their faces a mixture of disbelief and relief. The elders, now united in their decision, stood silent, their expressions unreadable. Malik could feel the eyes of the room on him, the pressure of history bearing down on his shoulders. The echoes of ancestral wisdom filled the space, yet the future hung in delicate balance. Elijah, his father, placed a hand on Malik's shoulder, his grip firm but weary. You did what needed to be done. The ancestors have spoken, and we have preserved the honor of our people. But this isn't over, Malik. Malik turned to face him. What do you mean, father? There are forces at play beyond the dome, Elijah said, his voice low. Zira, or Zale, as she is known, was just a pawn in a much larger game. The Echoed are a threat that has been growing for years, infiltrating, manipulating, and building alliances across the stars. This judgment will not silence them. It will only make them more dangerous. Malik's stomach tightened. You're saying this isn't the end of her? No, Elijah replied. It's only the beginning. The Confederation will demand answers, and the Echoed will retaliate. There will be factions who still believe in her cause, and they will try to move against us. You've exposed the truth, but we are far from safe. Malik nodded, understanding the gravity of his father's words. Zira's presence in the binding ceremony was just a symptom of a deeper, more insidious threat. The Echoed Fold was a shadow organization, known for its manipulation of genetic and political systems across planets. If their agenda had been allowed to continue, it could have reshaped the very foundation of the Confederation. I won't let it go this far, father, Malik said, his voice determined. I'll fight to protect Nova Atlanta, the Confederation, and everything we've worked for. We'll expose every last piece of their plan. Elijah's eyes softened with pride. I know you will, son. But remember, the truth is a weapon. Use it wisely, for it will change everything. He paused, his gaze turning serious. You may have to make alliances you never thought possible. Are you suggesting we align with those who might have once been our enemies? Malik asked, confusion flickering in his eyes. Sometimes the line between friend and foe isn't as clear as we want it to be, Elijah said quietly. The echoed won't stop. To defeat them, we may need to look to the stars for help. We'll need to find common ground with those who can offer it. Malik felt the weight of his father's words. The world he thought he knew, the world he had fought to protect, was shifting. Alliances would need to be forged, sacrifices made, and compromises reached. There was no other way forward. We'll face them together, Malik said, resolve hardening within him. I won't let the echoed tear us apart. Whatever it takes. Elijah looked at him, his gaze steady. Then let's prepare for what comes next. The battle for the future of our people, our legacy, begins now. As they turned toward the exit, Malik's mind raced. The ceremony was over, but the war had only just begun. Zira's exposure was a victory, but the real challenge lay ahead. With every step, he knew they were marching toward an uncertain future, one where old alliances would fracture and new ones would be tested. But he was ready. The truth had set them free, but it had also made them targets. And he would fight not just for Nova Atlanta, but for the future of the stars themselves. The corridors of the Unity Dome seemed unusually quiet as Malik walked beside his father, the weight of the day's event still pressing on his chest. The energy that had once hummed with anticipation now felt heavy, laden with the fallout of the exposure. Elijah's footsteps were slow, deliberate, his back straight, but carrying an invisible burden that Malik knew all too well. They reached the private chamber. The door slid open, and the soft lighting of the room contrasted with the storm outside the dome's protective shield. Rain pattered lightly against the glass, a quiet rhythm that felt oddly peaceful after the chaos they had just witnessed. Malik stepped inside, his mind still racing with the images of Zira's exposed deceit and the uncertain future ahead. "Father," Malik began, his voice softer now, "I did what had to be done. But I know this isn't easy for you." Elijah turned to face him, his expression a mixture of pride and sorrow. "You did what was right, Malik. But the price, the cost of truth, is something I never imagined you would have to bear." Malik could see the struggle in his father's eyes. Elijah Kweku had always been a pillar of strength, the one who stood unwavering in the face of adversity. But today Malik saw a crack in that facade. The weight of his decisions, the revelations about Zira, and the risks that now loomed over them all had taken their toll. "I couldn't let her manipulate you," Malik said, his voice filled with conviction. "I couldn't let her deceive the Confederation, not after everything you fought for." Elijah nodded, but his eyes were distant, lost in thought. "You're right. I was blinded by hope, by a desire to find peace and unity. But in the end, I failed to see the truth in front of me." Malik stepped closer, feeling the sorrow radiating from his father. "You didn't fail, Father. You just wanted to believe. And I understand that. But you've never been alone in this. You have me, and we will fight this together." A heavy silence filled the room. Elijah sat down at his desk, his gaze never leaving Malik. "You're right," he said quietly. "I was too focused on the bigger picture, the political alliances, the future of our people. But in doing so, I lost sight of what truly matters." Malik's throat tightened. He could feel the weight of the years his father had spent trying to secure a future for Nova Atlanta, the burden of leadership that had shaped him. "And what's that?" Malik asked, though he already knew the answer. Elijah's voice cracked slightly. "Family, the ones we trust, the ones we love. In the pursuit of power, I lost sight of the people who matter most." Malik felt a pang in his chest. He could see the tears welling in his father's eyes, the man who had always seemed invincible, now vulnerable. For a moment, time seemed to slow as Malik stood before him. The hero, the leader, the father, all undone by the realization that even the most powerful man could be deceived. "You didn't lose me," Malik said softly, his own eyes stinging. "We're still here, together." And I'll never let you go through this alone. Elijah stood slowly, crossing the room to where Malik stood. He placed a hand on his son's shoulder, a gesture of both comfort and regret. Thank you, Malik. I was wrong. And I see now that I've put everything at risk, including you. I should have trusted you sooner. Malik swallowed the lump in his throat, shaking his head. It's not too late. We can still fix this. We can still protect the Confederation. We can rebuild from here. Elijah's eyes met his, and for the first time in a long while, Malik saw his father's true vulnerability. The weight of leadership is not for the faint-hearted, but you've shown me that it's not about standing alone, it's about standing together. You've given me hope again, Malik. Malik felt a rush of emotion, the bond between them now strengthened by the trials they had faced. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The Echoed were still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike, but now Malik knew that they could face whatever came next, together. I'll always be here for you, Father, Malik said, his voice steady despite the depth of the moment. And together, we'll make sure the future of Nova Atlanta is built on truth, honor, and the strength of our people. Elijah smiled faintly, his tears not yet dry but his heart lighter. I believe in you, Malik. I always have. And in that moment, Malik knew that no matter the battles ahead, the foundation of their family was unshakable. Truth, love, and loyalty, these were the legacies they would carry forward. The city of Nova Atlanta gleamed in the distance, its crystalline spires bathed in the golden light of a setting sun. The streets below buzzed with life, a vibrant pulse of culture and innovation, but Malik could feel the quiet tension that hung in the air. The ceremony was over. The battle had been fought, and for now, they had won. But the war was not finished. He stood at the edge of the balcony, gazing out at the horizon, his mind still processing the weight of the past few days. Jaira's deception had been laid bare, and the judgment of the ancestors had been delivered. Yet Malik knew that, even though the immediate threat had been neutralized, the true work had only just begun. The Confederation, his people, and even his father's legacy had been changed forever. Elijah stepped up beside him, his presence steady and strong. He didn't speak immediately, but Malik could feel the quiet understanding between them. They had both witnessed the truth, and they had both been forced to confront the consequences of their choices. You've grown, Malik, Elijah said after a long pause, more than I ever expected. I knew you were capable, but I never imagined you'd bear the weight of our future so well. Malik turned to face him, his eyes filled with the weight of their shared experience. I've had to. I couldn't let us fall. I couldn't let you fall, Father. Elijah smiled softly, the first genuine smile Malik had seen from him in what felt like ages. You've given me hope again, Malik. The hope I thought I lost when we lost her. I never thought I'd see the day when our family would truly unite like this, when I would be proud of you in this way. The words settled between them, and Malik felt a swell of pride, not just for himself, but for the future they could now build. They had weathered the storm, and together they could shape the future. But even as he felt the joy of their small victory, Malik knew the road ahead would still be difficult. There would be more challenges, more battles, more choices that would test them both. We still have work to do, Malik said, his voice steady. The Echoed, Zaira's supporters, they won't just disappear. We'll need to rebuild trust, secure our alliances, and make sure the truth is never again hidden from us. Elijah nodded, his expression somber but resolute. I know, and I'll help you every step of the way. You've shown me that the power of unity is greater than any single alliance or deceit. But now we must prove that to the rest of the Confederation. Malik's gaze shifted back to the city below. He could feel the weight of history in the air, as if the very ground beneath him held the echoes of his ancestors' footsteps. He had come so far, but the true test would be in how they would move forward. Together, Malik said, his voice filled with purpose. We'll do it together. We'll create a future where truth, honor, and unity are our foundation, a future where no one can manipulate or deceive us again. Elijah placed a hand on Malik's shoulder, a gesture of both reassurance and pride. And that will be the legacy of our family, the legacy we build from here. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of purple and orange. The city's lights flickered to life, their soft glow reflecting the new dawn of a world that had been irrevocably changed. Malik stood tall, side by side with his father, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. The journey wasn't over, but they had begun to rewrite their legacy. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, Malik knew that this was just the beginning. The future was uncertain, but with truth and unity as their guide, they would face it without fear.